Hey guys, what's up? So let us begin our today's lecture that is on areal differentiation and regional synthesis. It is a part of the topic Perspectives in Human Geography presented by the book Pincher. So what is areal differentiation? Areal differentiation is the outcome of the concept of chorology given by Hettner and that of horizontal and vertical unity given by Ritter. So even though Hettner wanted to develop chorology, he failed in doing so. And his idea was later used by Hartshorne, a very important person for areal differentiation, who developed a subjective view of regions in areal differentiation. According to Hartshorne, regions are geographical tools to study the complex phenomena over space. So guys, I have already explained you the concept of chorology given by Hettner and that of horizontal and vertical unity given by Ritter. So Hartshorne developed upon these concepts and gave his idea of areal differentiation. So you must be knowing that Hettner was not able to develop chorology and spent his lifetime collecting information and doing chorography. He was not able to analyze it properly, which was the objective of chorology. So what does Hartshorne say? First, let me show you a diagram of Hartshorne, which you can use a diagram not of Hartshorne, but this diagram you can use in a question on areal differentiation. So what was Hartshorne saying? That climatology and geomorphology oceanography, so on, on physical geography. And then in human geography, there is population geography, settlement geography, resources, so on, language, religion, culture. So this all is human geography. So Hartshorne is trying to say that all these branches of physical and human geography, they combine together and can be studied together within the framework of regions. Understood. So he's saying that in regional geography, in a particular region, you can study all these aspects together to develop a science of geography or to develop chorology. So this diagram you can use. Then areal differentiation holds that the Earth can be marked into areas. Sorry for the typo there. Marked into areas. Here into will come here, based upon their distinctive character, and studies the unique aspects, both physical and human, in such an area that differentiate it from other areas. So areal differentiation also studies how these aspects are interlinked to form a region and how this region is related to other regions. So this is just whatever I told you here, that within the framework of regions you study all the aspects, identify the region and see how it is interlinked to other regions, how these factors are interlinked to form a region and how this region is related to other regions or can be differentiated from other regions. So this is the point. So Also, based upon the criteria, boundaries of region can change. So this is a very important point. Why? Because I have told you that Hartshorne is trying to develop a subjective view of regions. So earlier there was an objective view of regions, like example, natural regions concept. For example, Pays of Vidal and Rhine geography of Philip Bosch. But here Hartshorne is doing a very different thing. He says that regions are a mental construct. Regions seen as a mental construct. That is, they are not naturally given. However, humans define the boundaries of region and they can change based upon the criteria. For example, if you take a map of India and you take a map of India, then based upon literacy levels, you can say that, okay, this South India may be having high literacy levels. Then the tribal belt may be having low literacy levels, rest of the part may be having medium literacy levels. So if you take the rainfall level, the regions that you identified will change. For example, these will be the regions with very high rainfall for the whole of Northeast India and this Western Ghat region. Then low rainfall over this dry lands of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh and also Ladakh. And the rest of the country can come into the medium category. So you can identify that the boundaries of regions are changing based upon the criteria. So here region is a mental construct and not a naturally given landscape, as was the case with the concept of natural regions. So areal differentiation of Hartshorne, you can see it is analytical, it is scientific, explanatory, but at the same time it is not using mathematical models and formulations. This happened later in the period of quantitative evolution. So this idea of areal differentiation was criticized by positivists like Schaefer, who criticized areal differentiation concept given by Hartshorne. And he also criticized the rigidity of chorology, which was developed by Hartshorne. And he criticized the idea of exceptionalism prevalent in geography. In his paper, name of his paper was Exceptionalism in Geography. So this idea of exceptionalism, you must remember that it was originally given by Immanuel Kant, that geography and history are exceptional disciplines. So this criticism was provided against areal differentiation by a very important geographer, Schaefer. So it led to the development of idea of compages by Whittlesey. This criticism this idea was developed by Whittlesey in 1953. So idea of compage is similar to partial chorology because the chorology developed by Hartshorne is very rigid, as criticized by Schaefer. So Whittlesey developed partial chorology. Fine. So regional studies and areal differentiation was prevalent between the World War I and World War II, but it got subdued during the quantitative revolution because despite this idea of compages, it was overthrown by the quantitative revolution after the Second World War. However, it is said that this idea of regional studies did not die and again became important with the rise of new regional geography from 1972. And this new regional geography idea remains the contemporary approach in geography. So what were the reasons for revival of areal differentiation and regional studies after 1970s? One very important reason was the social relevance movement. So it was felt that geography was not able to solve the problems of the society, and to make geography more relevant for the society, there was the birth of this social relevance movement. So it was said that capitalists have paid no significance to the existence of region, and this has led to the exploitation of natural and human resources. For example, let us say a capitalist just want to make profit, so he's not concerned about the peculiarity of a region, like how developing an industry in a particular region will destroy the wildlife and the river ecosystem. So he just he's just focusing upon the profit making, and he's acting like an economic rational human being and just want to minimize the cost. So this is leading to exploitation of natural and human resources. He's exploiting the workers in the factory. Fine. So welfare geographers like D.M. Smith felt that this traditional areal differentiation of Hartshorne was based upon static criteria and therefore was not of much use. And according to him, relevant criteria should be developed, like the amount of good or bad present in the society, to demarcate it into regions. So what I'm trying to say here is, in the traditional regional geography of Hartshorne, he used very static criteria. For example, let us say rainfall. So based upon rainfall, he is dividing the regions. He is dividing the space into regions. So D.M. Smith is saying that this is not of much useful in solving the problems of society. And we must develop criteria, for example, to increase equality in the society. If we can divide it into regions such as low levels of literacy, medium, such as low levels of literacy, medium levels of literacy, and high levels of literacy. So if we are able to do so, and same for per capita income, then we can focus more on this particular region to improve literacy rate. So this is the idea of D.M. Smith. He's trying to make geography more relevant. Then another reason for the revival of areal differentiation approach or the regional studies approach was the humanistic theme. So humanistic geographers, what they did, they favored the concept of place to the concept of landscape and location, which was prevalent during the time of areal differentiation and quantitative evolution respectively. So you can see that humanistic geographers favor the concept of place, and landscape concept was there during the areal differentiation, and location concept was there during UR. Fine. So these terms may seem very similar, but there is a difference, and the difference is, for example, we have a space, and during quantitative evolution, it was considered that some important nodes may be there which may have functional relationship between them. For example, relationship between higher city towns and capital cities. So this was the concept of location. And what is the location of capital city? What is the location of towns? And what is the location of villages? So this was the concept of location. Then the same space can be divided into different landscapes like mountains, plateaus, plains, etc. So this was the concept of landscape during the areal differentiation. But humanistic geographers favored the concept of place. So what was place according to them? Place according to them was a combination of location, morphology, and sense of place. And sense of place means what significance a place has in the minds of an individual. For example, for a city dweller, his ancestral village holds a special significance for him. And morphology means how that particular area is organized. So all these things combine to make place. So we will be dealing with these concepts of place, landscape, location in detail when we study humanistic geography. So another factor responsible for the revival of areal differentiation was structuralism. So structuralists felt that this traditional form of areal differentiation focused only on superstructure and infrastructure, whereas the actual causes of the problems lied in deep structures. So eventually they were able to influence regional geography to shift its focus to deep structures which were present in the region and which were responsible for the problems. So let me briefly explain this superstructure, infrastructure, and deep structure. Superstructure means the domain of the visible, infrastructure is the domain of process, and deep structure is the domain of invisible. So as per structuralists, same phenomena can have different outcomes in different regions due to the presence of underlying structures in these regions. So let us take the example of capitalism. So in case of USA, you can see that it has high human development index, but also there are high inequalities present. So why is it so? Just due to the presence of high resources, optimal population, high literacy, but high inequalities are due to colonial history and strong nexus between politicians, capitalists, crony capitalism, multi-ethnicity. There are racial tensions because of it and inequalities between the blacks and whites. So another is the case of Scandinavia. Scandinavia also has the prevalence of capitalism, but it has high HDI and low inequalities. So why is this happening? Just due to the presence of high resources, optimal population, high literacy, and less ethnic diversity. India, on the other hand, can also be said to be capitalists because of the recent changes that we have made after 1991. So India is having low HDI and high inequalities. Like both the factors are poor for India. So why is it? This is due to the presence of low resources, poor population, low literacy, and a strong nexus between politicians and capitalists. So one would say that the same capitalism is leading to different outcomes in different regions. So these outcomes, what I'm talking about, HDI and inequalities, they are the domain of visible. They form the superstructure. Fine. And capitalism forms the infrastructure, that is the domain of the process that is responsible for the outcomes. So here lies capitalism in infrastructure, and you can see the actual causes of the visible domain lie in the deep structure. So this is the domain of the invisible, and these include the various factors like resources, population, literacy, ethnicity that I just mentioned. So this is the concept given by structuralists to say that we must try to understand the deep structures that are prevalent in the society to get to the root cause of the problems. So now I have told what happened to areal differentiation after the quantitative revolution. But let us see that areal differentiation, let us try to understand that areal differentiation was not only developed by Hartshorne. Areal differentiation can be said to have a long history in geography, and you can say that areal differentiation has been the oldest tradition in geography. Fine. Why? Because areal differentiation in broader terms, it means regional studies. Fine. It has got to do with the region. So regional studies have been dominant in geography. So during the earlier time, for example, before this period of intermediate modern period of Hartshorne, from World War I to World War II, where he formalized this areal differentiation concept, areal differentiation existed as chorography. So it was based upon the objective view of regions, and that is, the earth can be divided into natural regions, and the task of geographers was to identify these regions and describe them. So this was visible in the works of Strabo, Al-Biruni, who compared different cultures, and Kahn, Philip Bosch, who tried to develop geography as chorography. So this descriptive nature of geography was said to become an hindrance in the development of science of geography. I have already told you this, that what was the problem with chorography. And this led to the development of chorological areal differentiation by Hartshorne. It is not chorographical. It is chorological areal differentiation of Hartshorne is very much chorological because it is a subjective view of region. So areal differentiation of Hartshorne used the ideas of Hettner, and it developed as chorology. So if a question comes to compare areal differentiation, to compare, let us say, intermediate modern era with the era after quantitative evolution, then you must talk only about the areal differentiation which was given by Hartshorne and explained by me in the previous slides. Fine, but if a question comes, if a question comes on only areal differentiation, then you must also include aspects 1 and aspect 3. So actual areal differentiation, formal definition, and the formal work in areal differentiation was done by Hartshorne. But in broader terms, areal differentiation has existed at chorology, and it has existed as new regional geography after 1970s. So I was talking about the areal differentiation as chorology. So this idea of Hartshorne was criticized by Schaefer, as I have already told you. It was also criticized by Otto Schluter and Karl Sawyer. They also saw this particular idea to be very rigid. Schaefer also saw it to be rigid. So the idea of Otto Schluter I have explained to you, but I can again repeat that it was that we have a natural landscape, that is our landschaft, and with the application of culture over time, it converts into Kulturlandschaft. The idea of Karl Sawyer was an idea of cultural determinism, that is, culture determines human activity, and it said that natural landscape with the application of culture over time converts it into cultural landscape. Fine. So they said that this approach of Hartshorne of selecting criteria and approach of Hettner was very rigid, and actually they gave a very similar idea that a natural landscape converts it into cultural landscape when human culture applies to it over a period of time. But however, this idea was also not very much accepted after World War II, and geography was dominated by quantitative revolution. You must know that. And after the quantitative revolution, areal differentiation developed as new regional geography. So areal differentiation as new regional geography, what does it mean? So new regional geography, it is a more applied and suitable for problem solving. For example, it is used in resource management, industrial development, environment planning, regional planning. This new regional geography is more human-centric, includes the concept of place. Just remember that humanistic geographers had influenced the development of new regional geography, and this concept of place was taken by new regional geography from the concept of place given by humanistic geographers. Then it also includes the idea of welfare geography, the idea of structuralism. These are all the factors that influence the growth of new regional geography. explained by me in the previous slide. So also bioregionalism. This bioregionalism thing, just remember it for now. I will make a separate video on what is bioregionalism. It's a very small topic. So new regional geography is like a synthesis and uses principles of systematic geography to explain the regional phenomena as envisaged by Hitler. So it is synthesizing systematic geography and regional geography or special geography. And new regional geography focused upon superstructure and infrastructure. But after the growth of structuralism and the profound influence that structuralist geographers had on new regional geography, the focus of new regional geography shifted to deep structures from 1980s onwards. So this is the whole concept of new regional geography that had started after 1970s. So what challenge remains? So the challenge that still remains is to identify relevant criteria to demarcate regions. This challenge will always remain in a regional approach, that what criteria to choose to identify the landscape into regions, to divide the landscape into regions. So that was all for area differentiation. Now I have been talking about this concept of compages that was given by Wittelsey after Schaefer had criticized areal differentiation. So Wittelsey tried to develop partial chorology. I had said this. So what is this concept of compage? So following criticism by Schaefer, a committee of, this is of, sorry, of the title, of Committee of Regional Geography was formed in 1953 under the chairmanship of Wittelsey. Its objective was to give new direction to the regional approach, since it was severely criticized that it was very rigid. So this committee suggested the idea of compages. So what is the idea of compages? It means that the criteria chosen to demarcate regions must be minimized and they should be more humanistic. For example, just remember the idea of chorology of Hettner included lots of criteria like topography and climate, soil, vegetation, then human aspects like settlement, population, literacy, and there was a fixed sequence in which you had to follow the ideas. So this particular rigidity had to be removed. So this idea of compages said that the criteria chosen must be minimized. For example, the agricultural regions of the world were given by Wittelsey based upon 5 criteria. So if you read this agricultural regions of the world, it's a part of the syllabus also. So the whole world has been divided into agricultural regions based upon 5 criteria. And also the criteria chosen are humanistic, and unlike the more emphasis was given to physical criteria by Hettner and Hartshorne. For example, rainfall maps and the physical aspects. But Wittelsey said that by demarcating an area into regions, we must focus more on human aspects. So he chose 5 criteria and divided the world into 13 agricultural regions. You can read about the criteria and the agricultural regions. It's easily available on the net. So compages give more emphasis on the core-periphery relationship while demarcating regions rather than area, shape and size of the regions as done during areal differentiation. And this idea was more analytical, the idea of compage, and helped in more meaningful demarcation of regions as compared to areal differentiation. And this particular approach got later concretized as new regional geography, which is also the contemporary approach. And I have already told you about this approach in the previous slide. So another topic that we will be dealing with today is regional synthesis. It's a very small topic. Let's finish it off fast. So regional synthesis is a method within the regional approach and involves integration or synthesis. Synthesis means integration of recognized elements in a region such that the region demarcated has unique characteristics and we can be differentiated from its surroundings. So it's sounding very similar to the areal differentiation approach. And it is actually very similar because both are a part of this regional studies. But synthesis is the key word here. Synthesis means integration of different aspects. So you will see how geography integrates various aspects and how regions integrate various aspects. So geography is said to be a spatial science of synthesis. Because spatial science, why? Because it studies the phenomena in space and aims to integrate different aspects. So Feynman's diagram, this you can draw whenever question on integration or synthesis comes. So geography can be said to integrate geology, meteorology, biology, economics, history, sociology. So all the disciplines are integrated in geography. So this inner circle can be said to be geography. So regional synthesis is said to provide a framework in which different approaches of geography can be assimilated. This idea of synthesis can be seen in the works of, so before reading this out and explaining this, let me just explain you, or rather remind you, that I have already talked that in the diagram on areal differentiation that the framework of regions can be used to integrate various aspects of geography like physical geography branches and human geography branches. This can be done within the framework of regions. So just keep this in mind. Regional studies can help synthesize, that is integrate various aspects. So what is this? This is also regional synthesis. So this regional synthesis was seen in the works of Varenius. He said that special geography serves as a footnote of general geography. So he's integrating special geography and general geography. Kant focuses both on physical and human geography. So he's integrating physical and human geography. Ritter emphasized both on physical and human geography in his idea of unity and diversity. So he is also integrating physical and human geography. Same thing is being done by Vidal, who integrates space and genre divine. Then Hettner tries to integrate both systematic and regional geography through his concept of chorology. Right? And he said that the principles and laws developed in systematic geography can be improved and corrected by testing them in regional geography. This is a very important statement to understand how he is integrating systematic and regional geography. That he first developed laws in systematic geography and test them in regional geography and then try to improvise them by testing. So Karl Sawyer and Otto Schlüter, they integrated time and space to their concept of Landschaft or natural landscape, which converts to cultural landscape or cultural landscape. So you must remember that geography, as per Kant, was a study of phenomena in space, but Otto Schlüter and Karl Sawyer have also included the concept of time. So they are integrating time and space, because over a period of time, natural landscape converts to cultural landscape. So this time and space integration is being done by them. And the new regional geography also develops on the idea of Hettner and integrates systematic and regional geography. So this idea of synthesis in geography, I was saying that it is very much visible since the classical period. Fine. Then another geographer, Berry, he also developed this geographical matrix which represents regional synthesis idea. Fine. So what did Berry said that such a synthesis that is provided by regions is necessary for the growth and development of geography as a discipline. So let us quickly understand this particular idea. For example, these are the characteristics given of a characteristics given, and these are regions. So region, for example, let us say this is rainfall, this is population. So region 1 may have high rainfall, low population. Region 2 may have low rainfall, high population. Then this may be resource availability. Resource availability here may be low, here may be high. So that is how we can form a table of the regions. Fine. So these are the spatial interactions in the horizontal direction. And these are the thematic interaction, the vertical direction. And some of these characteristics may also change with time. So this is the time axis. So let us say after some time, when time changes to T2, characteristic 3 may be high. For example, if characteristic 3 is resources may be low today due to the lack of technological know-how. But at a later period of time, they can become high because, for example, coal was earlier a black rock. But now at time T2, with the industrial revolution and the discovery of coal in producing electricity and energy, it is the region which had coal and was resource low may now be resource high region. So these are the temporal interactions. For example, let us say we take 3 regions, New Delhi, Old Delhi, Mathura, and use the following characteristics. And over a period of time, these all characteristics can change. So now let us try to understand how we do chorology. So let us take one particular variable. For example, this temperature. This is known and study how it varies in the 3 regions. So this is single criteria regional studies. And if we take multiple variables like temperature, rainfall, suppose there is soil, vegetation, and then include all these. So we may be demarcating the space into natural regions and study them. Then if we take multiple variables related to human geography, for example, we may take HDI, corruption, and combine these, right? We combine these. Then this is similar to the idea given of Compage, like take humanistic criteria and choose less criteria to demarcate the space into regions. Then if we choose one particular region, for example, New Delhi, and consider the effect of time on various parameters, then we can see that a natural landscape is converting into a cultural landscape. For example, there may be a reduction in rainfall as we move ahead in time due to climate change. There may be an increase in temperature. Also, human development index can increase or decrease. So all these parameters can change over the period of time, and a natural landscape which was there without human development may convert into a cultural landscape. So this is how we do analytical studies in geography. Now you must try to understand the concept of regional studies in geography and how we are able to do that. So this can be very easily explained through the diagram of Gleason. So friends, like, share, subscribe and comment to spread the word about this novel initiative.